Hello and welcome to the Human Frequency. I have to apologize for being kind of reclusive recently as I've been working on my book, and it's been almost impossible for me to blog or produce any content while I'm immersed in this. But fortunately, I'm near the end and we're already in the editing process, so hopefully I'll have that done soon. But I came here today to actually show my face for a change, to come out of seclusion and talk about a serious issue that's been a theme on our show, which is this real estate bubble, which is preventing people from being able to move or get affordable housing or even live.
Or do anything really. And yeah, we have touched on this several times before, but I came across an interesting article this morning, and I kind of browse around, not terribly seriously, but just to kind of get an idea how things are, because we know that this bubble will burst eventually, but I'm just kind of looking at these articles and seeing what the climate is like and seeing when it actually starts to go down. That's what I'm looking for ultimately.
Well, let me pull up this article and some other things related to it. So, all right. So, yeah, Gabe found this article on ABC7.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because, I've talked before about how this property bubble just brings out the worst and the landlords and the sellers and that they're all greedy. And while that may be true, there is a flip side to that. And that is that the people buying or trying to buy or prospective tenants, they just don't have any money.
Right.
And this article points this out, that if even these good salaried jobs, the people who have these jobs can't afford anything but a little shoebox, then we've really got a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, if an LA starting teacher can't afford a rental in LA, then how is LA going to get teachers? That's an issue. And one thing that this article really left out was they said that they can't afford the median rental, and it didn't say what Zillow said the median rental was, because this article says that this is based on Zillow statistics. So
yeah,
we had to go
conspicuously absent from
right.
the article.
So we had to go to Zillow to pull that up, and according to Zillow, this is the for sale. Let's go down to the rent, because the for sale is close to 700,000 median price, which is a little on the preposterous side.
Rentals.
This is also on the preposterous side. 3,500 Zillow says is the median rental price in LA. Now, I have to also add that Zillow has their own agenda here. So my guess, when I had to guess what is the median rent in LA, I guessed 2,500. They said 3,500. I went to a different website, just picked one up at random, and I got the average rent as 2,500 in LA. So naturally, 3,500 a month, there's no way that a starting teacher could afford that. There's no way almost anyone could afford that. But even here at 2,500,
even 25.
So then I went on to look at some of the other, and by the way, the average rent in LA here is 2,500, and the average apartment size is just under 800 square feet. So you get an idea that people are spending a lot of money on very tiny spaces. And really what we've got going on right now is a real estate stalemate. We've got two sides of a transaction, the buyer and the seller, or the tenant and the landlord, and there's no agreement being made here. I mean, places are stagnating on the market right now.
No one's doing business.
There's no business going on here. Let's go and take a look at some of the others in California. Let's move past LA and let's just say, check this out. 2,500 in LA, 3,700 a month in San Francisco.
Which is no big surprise, but
no,
that is
it's actually lower than I thought. But this is what we're looking at. This is kind of a disaster for anybody who needs to live in a house. So what we're looking at is a real estate stalemate where nothing is happening. And I've been looking at the market for a while now in my area, and it's astonishing how long rentals and houses for sale are sitting. What we're talking about is real world economics. So you can listen to the pundits on Fox News who don't have landlords, don't have to worry about how they're going to afford groceries this week. And they're talking about Trump and China and the manipulation of the dollar. And while this is all stuff that affects the value of the dollar, in the real world, we have a much smaller, more localized economy. And we've got people with houses in towns. They're trying to sell, they need to move, but they're being unreasonable about what they're asking. I mean, it's preposterous.
Well, of all the people that are qualified to talk about the real world. I would say that the talking heads on these major media news outlets are not in that group.
I would say Peter Schiff would be the exception because he's the only one that's talking honestly about the housing market. And he has predicted that the housing market will crash or the bubble will burst in November of this year. So we can only hope that in November of 2019, the housing bubble bursts. Everybody's been doing what I suggested. I'm happy to say people are not moving.
Out of necessity,
largely.
Yeah, but one thing I want to point out is that Peter Schiff has predicted correctly before. So I know everyone's going to say, oh, they always predict gloom and doom and they're always wrong. No, actually, he predicted the crash in 2006 and everyone laughed at him. Well, year and a half, 2 years later, there it was. So
yes,
we can, like you said, we can only hope.
Yeah, so I've been watching the market and I'm actually going to pull up, let me pull up some listings here. This is a neighborhood, a town we don't live in, but that I like and I find interesting.
Share screen first.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I have to share my screen. I'm learning this here. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. I went to Joshua Tree. Joshua Tree is a place I love. It's a nice desert area. It is very hot and it's very harsh. We have to keep this in mind when we're looking at these low rents here. So I pulled up the rentals on Zillow in Joshua Tree, and yeah, they look really low, but don't be fooled. I'm going to click around and show you what's really going on here. So we're seeing a place that looks pretty affordable. I can tell you that in 2016, when we were looking for a place to relocate out of LA, we were looking at this area and places like this, that's going for $1,425, or this one here at $1,350. These were about $900, and that's just 3 years ago. So I'm going to click on one here and show you what's going on with the market.
Just as an example.
Yeah, and I have many other examples. But when you're looking for a place to move to, I recommend that you go straight to the property history. So here, you can look at the pictures. It's a normal house. I'm not thrilled, and
decently
I'm not
sized, 1,600 square feet.
Yeah, it's decent. It looks clean. I mean, it's not exciting, but it'll do the job if you have a family and you need 3 bedrooms. Let's go ahead and go straight to history. This one's been on the market for 40 days. And here we go. Now, if you think $1,350 is a good deal, keep in mind that 5 years ago, this was renting for $1,100. Let's look at more price history. Part of the reason I haven't done this episode yet is I was worried that if I explained to people how to look at the price history on Zillow, they would remove the feature. This feature is extremely important because it will prevent you from ruining your life. And when it comes to renting, you've only signed a year lease. It's not a disaster. But if you were to buy high, you'd ruin your life.
It can prevent you from ruining
your
life.
So let's go look at this history here. Let's go back. Now, this was renting for $1,150. That's $200 less in 2013. The investor that bought this house in order to rent it paid $111,000 for it. That's very, very low. The mortgage on this house is nowhere near $1,150. And what landlords don't understand is that income property is not about just sitting back and living off your tenants. It's a long-term investment. So if the rents are not in line with mortgage values, then you've got an issue where people are going to rather get a mortgage than rent. And that's what I did back in 2001. I bought a house for $100,000 and I had a really cheap mortgage, and the house was a dump and I needed to fix it from top to bottom. But my mortgage payment was less than half of what rent would have been. So
now some of these properties are able to block the history, and I don't know exactly how they go about doing it. I'm sure they pay a fee or something, but on something like this, it's very interesting because it goes back a ways long enough for you to see what happened during the last bubble. You can see that big inflated price there.
Take a look here.
2007, $300K.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
Well, that's a preposterous amount of money for a house in Joshua Tree. Let us not forget it's the goddamn desert, okay? This is not Los Angeles. This is 3 hours from LA. No matter what the landlords or sellers say about proximity to Los Angeles, it's not close. It is very, very hot. It's very desolate. And as beautiful as it is, it's not like city living.
And check out, you can go one by one, how much value this property lost over the next few years.
This is a great example. So in 2007, at the height of the bubble, they paid $300 for it. And then they sold it they managed to get almost what they sold, what they bought it for in 2009. But what happened in 2009 in March? It sold for $295, and whoever bought it changed their minds. But by May, how is this possible? It's half the price. Is that crazy or what?
It was a very steep decline that year.
And then in 2012, we really were seeing it starting to bottom out. 125 for the same house, and then it sold for 111. Now, I wanted to point out, we've seen the history here, and there's many, many examples of this that you can see on Zillow. I'm going to show you. He's asking, well, here, this one's asking $1,350. Let me show you a low-priced one, and you're going to say, oh, wow, isn't that cheap? But check this out. This is $1,100 a month. Let's go to the history.
Same realtor, by the way.
Yeah, I see that.
We're not picking on these houses for any particular
I'm
reason.
only,
it's just what's there.
I'm only picking on Joshua Tree because I happen to like the area and would live there. But I don't live there now, but I think it's nice, but not at this price. All right, let's take a look. This one's great. This one here, as you can see, in 1996, it was $55,000, and it didn't gain much value. You know, these houses don't appreciate much. That's another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at inflated prices. These do not appreciate much. They're in the desert. Mm-hmm. In 2003, as the market was starting to climb, but it wasn't crazy yet, this house sold for $72,000. And it used to rent just 2 years ago for $900. Now it's $1,100. I'm going to show you an example now of what the mortgage payment would be on this relative to the rent. Now, you're looking at $1,100 for this 2-bedroom house. Here's a house that's on the market for $225. It's also a 2-bed. It's a similar house. $225 is very high for this house, but let me show you the history. Let's go down. Okay. Actually, first I'm going to show you the mortgage. That's what I really want to show you first. Where's that mortgage payment?
A little below.
Okay.
Further.
Here we go.
There we go.
$1,100 a month. Okay. $1,100 a month for a mortgage on $225,000. Now let's go back to the rental.
And that's assuming you put what, 20 or 25?
Yeah,
down?
let me show you. So you go here to the mortgage calculator. All right. Here's the mortgage calculator.
Down.
So $45,000 down on 225, and your payment is, and you know, that's pretty much what you have to put down. That's 20%. And then your payment is $1,100. Now this guy here, he bought his house for $72,000 and he wants $1,100. Let's change the amounts here in this mortgage calculator. He paid $72,000 for this house. And let's say he put 20% down. Let's see if I can get this to come up.
I think you have to put the percentage in.
And it's about, what was it right now? About 4%? Oh, no, percent down, 20% down, 4% interest rate. Let's see if we can get a mortgage here. Yeah. Okay. $356. Let's put this in perspective when you're looking at these rentals, okay? So let's go back to the rental. Now, do you understand why $1,100 for this 2-bedroom house might not be such a good deal? The one that's for sale for $225 that would have an $1,100 mortgage was bigger than this house by hundreds of square feet. Actually, it was about 1,400 square feet. Keep this all in mind when you're looking.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're seeing one of these houses, kind of generic looking houses that doesn't have a lot of photos of interior areas, they're not showing off all of this new stuff that they put
like
in
this one
as a justification for charging large amounts of money.
These guys want.
So you know that the price increase is not because they put work into it. They just want money for nothing.
This one here is $200,000. That's what they want. It's a 1-bedroom house. It's 700 square feet. It's in the goddamn desert. Let's not forget. Joshua Tree is trendy, but let's not forget.
And look how long it's been on.
115 days. Oh, there's some that have been on for like a year already. Okay.
Cool artwork.
I beg to differ.
I'm being sarcastic.
Lost my screen. Okay. So the house is very basic. You can't really see much of the inside. There's a reason for that. They don't want to show it to you. They're asking $200 for it. It's 1 bedroom. It's in Joshua Tree. You know, in LA, this is what this should cost. Let's be honest here. I'm not even bothering pulling up LA because it's so preposterous. Let's go to the history on this house. Okay, there you go again. $64,000 in 2015, 4 years ago. For some reason now they want $130,000 profit for living in it. Why? back in '06, look at where it peaked out.
Again, the height.
At
Yeah.
the height of the market, this peaked out at 120 and now they want 200. So now you're seeing prices that are surpassing the last boom. These houses are not selling. It's not happening. And then you've got something else that I've got to share, which it just annoys me. Let's see if I can find it here. There was one more that just really irritated me.
Just one?
Oh, this one really did, because the ones that are a little overpriced, like we're talking between 200 to 400 overpriced, that's one thing. This one's double what it should cost. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, $2,600, and this guy is charging you for his artwork. And that's the problem with Joshua Tree and Trendy Places, is that this guy's trying to appeal to, like, stupid hipster people who just want, that certain idea of a lifestyle. This art is awful in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. They're appealing to people who just want a certain lifestyle. But you know what happens when you're asking $2,600 for a house like this? You're going to get a flake tenant who doesn't know anything about money. And if he wants a trust funder or something like that, good luck. $2,600, that's the median rent in Los Angeles, and you want to get that for a house in the desert,
In the middle of the
because
desert.
of your ugly artwork. Sorry, guy. I mean, just don't like your art. And as you can see, this place is not renting, and he's hidden the history. They can do that. I don't know how, but they do. So anyway, I just wanted to pull up a few of these just to show you. And I think we've gone through.
It's probably like Yelp, where they pay to have bad reviews hidden.
Yeah. So probably. Anyway, I just wanted to share a few of those, because it's very important when you're thinking of relocating. First off, if you don't have to right now, I would wait, because Peter Schiff says November. We have been meditating and meditating, and I know you have too, and praying for affordable housing. Something's got to give. I mean, this is not, it's not happening. Nobody can move. We're staying
a
put.
stalemate can only result in the bottom falling out. It's going to be different than it was 14 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, when it was they would give out loans to basically anyone, and eventually enough people start defaulting on those payments that then the whole bottom falls out. What's going to happen this time is that there's no action, there's no business being done.
No business is happening. That's a stagnant market. So never mind what Trump and China are doing. Here in the real world, okay, in our own communities, we've got people that hold property and people that need to move into that property. And if nothing is happening, the sellers aren't getting what they want, the buyers aren't getting what they want. There's no agreement being made here. I just wanted to also talk a little bit about property investment. I've experience in this field. I have renovated. Back in the last boom, I did this kind of stuff. And back in 1998, I became an apartment manager in LA. And that was my first exposure to property management. And back then, a 1-bedroom was $450 a month, and a studio was $350 in the building where I lived. And that's where I got my start, and I learned that property management is not the way to quick bucks. It's a long-term investment, a property investment. After I had experience with that, I got sick of living under the rule of a landlord, because I had so many problems dealing with the company that owned that building, that I moved out of Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon, because I wanted to buy my own house and I couldn't afford it in LA. And I bought a fixer-upper. It was a total dump. And I spent 5 years fixing it. And I actually doubled the value of the house because I bought it in 01, sold it in 06, but I also fixed it. Nothing in it worked when I got it. It was like camping when I first moved in there, okay? I was brushing my teeth in the kitchen sink. There was no working bathroom
in there. At least it wasn't like glamping.
Thank goodness. It was not glamorous, no. It was pretty rough living. But I fixed it. I doubled my money on it. But the amount of work I did, it was like I earned a regular salary, basically. It wasn't like quick money. And while I was at it, I got an inheritance when my grandmother passed away. And I thought, well, maybe I should invest it. So I put it as a down payment on an income property. And I had a three-unit place, a triplex, and that also needed a complete overhaul. I did a lot of vintage restoration. I didn't tear stuff out. I kept everything in character. I made it beautiful. I kept up with the history of it. And this is a long story about what I had to deal with that property, but ultimately I did pretty well when I sold it. But the point is, you don't make the money from the rentals, and the landlords are delusional. They think that they're going to get to sit back and just live a luxurious life and not have to work because the tenants pay their way. It doesn't work that way. the mortgage that I was paying on that 3-unit building was covered by the rents. And unfortunately, the rents even covered the some of the utilities that I had to pay. So I basically broke even month to month, but I was putting my own work and labor. I did all my own labor on this place, mostly all my own labor with my partner at the time. And we only earned money when we sold it. So I think the landlords are really delusional that they think that these are anything but long-term investments. Real estate is real property. It gains value over long periods of time. In the short run, it's not a path to quick dollars because these markets fluctuate. First off, if you buy it at the wrong time and sell at the wrong time, you're screwed. And if you buy high and you have a mortgage and you sell low, you still owe that money. So if you bought it for $300,000 and then you have to sell it for $200,000, that bank isn't going to forget about that $100,000. You're going to have to pay it out of pocket. And who has that? So that's one reason not to buy high. The other thing is, if you're going to be investing in real estate, you've got to understand that you're going to make money 20 years from now. This isn't about quick money now.
Well, another travesty of these housing bubbles is that vintage properties, one by one, just get destroyed. And I know this breaks your heart.
It breaks my heart.
And mine too. And of course, it's just material stuff. And, if you're of a more Buddhist mentality, like, who cares about material stuff? But it is nice to look at. And this is a thing that really kind of started in the last property bubble,
it did.
And now it's even more so now. The more time that passes, all of these great properties, these craftsmen's homes from the 30s and 40s, they're all getting gutted.
They destroy the kitchens, the bathrooms primarily. The kitchens and bathrooms are the tragedies here.
Those are the first to go.
And
really the source of this problem is these TV shows, these realtors who go around and they brainwash people, basically. And
well, it's just so many problems, but yeah, I mean, you've got magazines like Dwell. It's funny. My house was featured in Portland Monthly when I lived there because I did such a great job on the paint job and was in a gentrifying neighborhood. And that was back in 2004. And I was really into these renovation shows, but I actually hated when people would tear out vintage features. I am really good at restoring them, and anyone can do it. It takes some Ajax and a sponge. Well, you can use Bottom E. It's less toxic. That's why I use a little bit of scrubbing, little elbow grease, and then a fresh coat of paint. You'd be amazed. But instead, people are just tearing out gorgeous wood cabinets. This is old growth wood. You're not going to see this anymore. And they're putting in just cheap new stuff, granite countertops, just generic modern crap that's not made like they used to make it. And they're destroying history. And that's just
nobody cares. It's
a casualty of the property boom.
Yeah.
It's just in the mid-century is also it's dying. The mid-century architecture. I love history. I love beauty. And yeah, when I was doing renovations, I didn't tear anything out. I only took out stuff that was like completely water damaged, and it wasn't good stuff. It was like 80s stuff. And I brought back the old stuff. My triplex was built in 1907, and it had all these ugly kitchens, and they were all water damaged. And I brought in 1950s kitchen sink units that were gorgeous. I even refinished them. I mean, it was a lot of work. Vintage stoves, restoring hardwood floors, restoring clawfoot tubs. This is very good stuff, but it's all going to waste. It's bad for the environment, and it's bad for history.
Yeah. The point is, it's not just the living who suffer during these artificial booms. It's the non-living too. The houses, the beauty contained within.
It's so sad. And they do have a life of their own. I know it's just stuff, but it has like all the history and the people that have passed through it,
We've said it many times before. I'll say it again. Housing is a necessity. It's not a luxury item. And when it starts to be treated as such, is it any wonder we're in a situation like we are now?
Well, that's really all I had to say on this. I just wanted to come in and pop in a little bit for a while and say hi because I did the pop in. I've been really just completely immersed in my book, and I feel kind of bad because I feel like I'm alienating everybody, but once it's done, you'll be glad I spent the time on it, because this book is going to explain exactly what's going on in the energetic war and things you can do. And I hope it changes your life.
We'll be alienating you in a different way.
Right. But in the meantime, I just wanted to come in again and tell you that what I see happening in the real estate market is very encouraging. It's a little tough right now to wait through it, but what I see happening is real estate stalemate. This thing is ending. It's on its last leg. And I mean, there's been other things that have been pointing towards it, like the rising price of gold. Gold is at an all-time high. Silver is still really low. I think that's still a good thing to invest
Not
in.
an all-time high, but
Well, not an all-time high, but pretty high.
close.
So
Much higher than where it was even just a couple of years ago.
we're seeing changes. We're seeing changes in the market, and just hang in there, guys. It's all going to crash soon, and don't fall for these scams. Just hang in there and wait it out, because whether you're going to be buying or renting, if you wait even just a little while, things are going to come back into balance, because really your rent or your mortgage, it shouldn't be most of your income. It should be, the landlords want you to be 3 times the rent. That sounds right. I'd like to have, I'd like my rent to be a third of the income, not most of it.
Right.
But the way they're charging rents, I mean, it's not possible. So hang in there, guys. It's coming to an end. Keep on praying and meditating on this thing, and just be patient.
And when it starts to come to an end, wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not going to be quick. This is going to take a couple of years at least to truly hit rock bottom. I mean, you look at those listings and you go into the property history section and you see 06, 07, all those high numbers. 08, 09 is when it started to go down. It didn't really bottom out till around 2012 or so. So these things take time. You just have to be patient. It's difficult. We know that more than anyone.
Believe me, we want to move too. I mean, I love our house, but we live in a really weird place. I mean, it's all we can afford.
Just patience is a virtue. It's not an empty slogan. It truly is. So yeah, just hang in there, and we'll continue to do updates as they come in.
And we'll try not to be strangers so much. I need to come back in and say hi from time to time, and hopefully my book will be done by the end of the year. So thanks so much. Anyway, if you want to know more about our work is not about real estate. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in. Our website is thekembo.com, and it's all about orgone energy. It's about the energetic war and how you can defend yourself against these attacks, and how you can clean up your sky and all that stuff. Oh, and by the way, these realtors are capitalizing on our skies now. If you look at these pictures, there's so many pictures in the real estate ads of just skies. I'm like, okay, Organite skies. Yeah, we gifted there.
That's another thing, is that it also ends drought. So
that's another biggie.
Add it to the list of wonderful things it does.
And it prevents land scarcity too, because it makes so much more fertile land. So it is kind of in a way related to real estate in that way, because it'll give you a good place to live. All right, thanks so much for listening. Please come to our website, thekembo.com, and we will see you again really soon.